Walk through any supermarket in Europe and you'll find the pristine end product of a massive industry. Neat little cans of tuna and sardines sourced from the bustling fishing hubs of Galicia, Spain. But there's a side to this process you don't see on the label, a simple, almost brutal equation. For every ton of perfect fish that gets packed and sealed, another ton of other stuff gets left behind. We're talking about literal mountains of fish guts, heads, fins, and bones. And beyond that, all the cloudy, protein-rich water they're cooked in. For decades, this has been seen as one thing and one thing only: waste. A smelly, expensive problem that canneries have to pay to get rid of. It's just the unavoidable, unpleasant cost of doing business. But what's fascinating is that a small group of researchers are starting to look at these industrial leftovers and see something entirely different. They're asking a question that could turn the entire equation on its head. What if this isn't a problem to be disposed of, but a resource to be harvested? What if the most valuable part of the fish is the part we've been throwing away all along?
That's a truly provocative question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really challenges our fundamental understanding of what waste even means. And while your vivid image of fish processing byproducts kicks us off perfectly, this deep dive is actually about something far broader.
Right.
We're going to explore how Europe is systematically shifting its entire perspective on biowaste, moving it from, well, a costly problem to an incredibly valuable resource.
Okay.
We'll unpack the groundbreaking policies, the clever economic tools, and the innovative technologies that are making this transformation happen, all with the ultimate goal of creating a truly circular bioeconomy.
Right. Turning trash into treasure, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a journey into turning what we once just considered, well, trash into treasure.
Okay, let's unpack this foundational shift then. When we talk about bio-waste, most of us probably think of, our banana peels or coffee grounds in a small kitchen compost bin. But the official definition, as laid out by EU directives, it's far broader, isn't it?
Right.
And the scale is, well, monumental.
It definitely is. Bio-waste officially includes not just biodegradable garden and park waste, but also food and kitchen waste from households, offices, restaurants, canteens.
Everywhere, basically.
Everywhere. Even large wholesale operations and massive food processing plants. It effectively breaks down into those two major categories: garden and park waste, and then food and kitchen waste.
And the sheer volume.
The numbers behind this are truly eye-opening.
Yeah.
Europe generates an astounding 118 to 138 million tons of biowaste annually.
Wow, million tons.
Million tons. And to put that in perspective, more than 2/3 of that comes from municipal sources alone.
Oh.
That means biowaste makes up anywhere from 18% to a staggering 60% of all municipal solid waste in different member states.
60% in some places. That's incredible. It's not just a small side issue. It's a core component of our waste stream.
Precisely. And that brings us to the EU's driving force behind this transformation. A series of ambitious targets and game-changing directives that are effectively forcing a paradigm shift across the continent.
Okay, what are we talking about specifically?
Well, one of the most critical is the revised Waste Framework Directive. This mandated separate bio-waste collection or recycling at the source as obligatory for all municipalities across the EU.
Obligatory.
Obligatory. By December 31st, 2023. So this isn't a suggestion, it's a legal requirement that's already in effect.
So municipalities literally have no option but to figure this out. What happens if they don't? I mean, what are the implications for the EU's broader environmental ambitions?
That's where the numbers tell a clear story. This mandate is absolutely crucial for hitting the EU's overarching target of recycling a whopping 65% of municipal waste by 2035.
65%, that's ambitious.
Very. And given that biowaste is such a massive component of municipal waste, reaching that 65% recycling goal is, frankly, practically impossible without aggressively tackling biowaste.
So it's the linchpin. If you don't solve biowaste, you don't solve the overall recycling problem. You can't hit that target.
Exactly. And adding to that pressure, the revised EU Landfill Directive, enacted back in 2018, mandates that no more than 10% of municipal waste can end up in landfills by 2030.
Only 10% in landfill by 2030.
Right. And furthermore, separately collected waste fractions, including bio-waste, cannot be landfilled at all. This pushes us firmly away from disposal and towards something called valorization, which is all about extracting value.
And here's where it gets really interesting for the future of waste management, I think. The very definition of recycling itself is undergoing a significant change.
Indeed it is. As of January 1st, 2027, municipal biowaste will only count towards recycling targets if it has been separately collected or separated at source.
Okay, unpack that. What does that really mean for how waste is handled?
Well, it has massive implications for existing waste management systems. because it means that mechanical biological treatment or MBT facility.
Right, the ones that sort mixed waste.
Exactly. Those facilities, which typically mix waste before sorting out the organic fraction, will no longer contribute to biowaste recycling targets after that date. This is a profound policy shift. It's designed to ensure the purity and quality of the recycling stream. It's about raising the bar, making sure that what's labeled recycled is truly high-quality material ready for reuse, not just, partially diverted waste.
That's a significant shakeup for many waste management operators who've invested heavily in MBT. They've got, less than 3 years now? A tight deadline to adapt, or their recycling numbers simply won't count?
That's right.
So how do they navigate this complex policy maze? What makes for effective governance when you're dealing with something so vast and varied across Europe?
That's the core challenge, really. Europe's rich tapestry of cultures, politics, economies, geographies. It all means there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah, you can't just copy-paste.
Exactly. You simply can't cut and paste approaches from, say, a highly urbanized region in Germany to a rural island in Greece and expect it to work perfectly. It sounds like it demands a highly adaptive approach. It does. Effective biowaste management requires multi-level governance. You need clear alignment and responsibilities across EU, national, regional, and local governments.
So a chain of command, almost.
Sort of. Upper levels set the frameworks and devolve responsibilities, but local entities are absolutely crucial for the day-to-day implementation. This cascading structure fosters mutual accountability, but it also demands that local authorities have the necessary tools and capacity.
Okay, so what are those essential ingredients for success on the ground? What do local places need?
Robust governance requires sufficient organization, first off. Then, adequate capacity. We're talking human resources, finances, infrastructure.
The basics,
but they're often lacking. Then you need transparency, public confidence, citizen empowerment, and strong data management systems. Without these, even the best mandates can fall flat.
And what are the common roadblocks? What stops this from happening?
Well, we've seen common barriers like a lack of synergy between environmental and agricultural policies, for instance, or inefficient penalties for noncompliance.
Right.
And often just insufficient interest or support from decision makers. There's also this recurring problem of distrust from the public regarding collection system performance, usually because of poor communication and data tracking.
That makes sense. If I'm meticulously sorting my food waste, I want to know it's not just ending up in a landfill somewhere down the line. You need to earn that trust, right?
Absolutely. If people don't trust where their carefully separated waste is going, their motivation quickly, well, it wanes.
So how do you build that trust? Are there examples where places have got it right?
That's where case studies like Iglancia, Cyprus, become so insightful. This small city, just over 20,000 inhabitants, provides a fantastic example of a bottom-up approach to policy change. It demonstrates how local innovation can really drive national policy.
Okay, what did they do?
In 2020, they implemented a holistic waste management program. The key thing, it directly linked waste generation to billing. They got rid of the fixed annual waste collection fee.
The one based on house size or whatever.
And replaced it with a charge based on the volume of residual waste. Residents had to purchase specific prepaid purple bags for their non-recyclable trash.
Ah, the pay-as-you-throw idea. So a direct incentive. The more residual waste you produce, the more you paid.
Exactly. And the result was striking. A 30% reduction in household waste after just the first year of the pilot in 2021.
30%? That's huge for 1 year.
It was. And the success was so significant that it inspired the Ministry of Environment to subsequently approve a national pay-as-you-throw project for the whole country during the 2021-2027 programming period. It shows how effective local initiatives can truly scale up and influence broader policy.
That's a brilliant example of how policy isn't always just top-down. Local communities can lead the way. Are there other structural things that affect how well these systems work, like how centralized the government is?
Absolutely. The level of centralization, for instance, in countries like France or Hungary, where authority is concentrated at higher levels of government, versus decentralization, like you see in Navarra, Spain, where powers are transferred down to subnational and local governments, that significantly impacts biowaste management outcomes.
How so?
Well, each approach presents unique challenges and opportunities. For example, in decentralized systems, local entities have greater autonomy to tailor solutions to their specific context, which is good. But they also need the capacity and resources to do so effectively. Centralized systems might struggle with local adaptation.
And what about who actually picks up the bins, public versus private service provision. Does that make a difference?
Yes, the type of service provision, whether it's public-private or maybe a public-private partnership, also plays a huge role. If you go with privatized services, you absolutely need clear definitions of roles, responsibilities, and crucially robust public control and monitoring mechanisms.
To make sure they're actually doing what they're supposed to.
Precisely. To ensure accountability and effective performance. If those strict monitoring systems aren't in place, private providers might, well, prioritize profit over environmental outcomes. It's a risk you have to manage.
So whether public or private, accountability and trust remain paramount.
That's right. And this leads us to the absolutely crucial role of public engagement. You have to educate and empower citizens, provide them with the necessary information and resources, and involve them in policy design.
How do you involve them? Like surveys?
It can be surveys, but better yet, things like public consultations and participatory decision-making. This approach not only builds trust in policymakers, but also ensures that waste strategies are locally appropriate and gain community buy-in. Navarra's integrated plan of waste prevention and management is a great example. They had hundreds of individuals, 414, actually actively participate in the deliberation phase.
Wow.
Yeah. It moves beyond simply informing people to actively involving them and shaping the solutions that will affect their daily lives.
Okay, so we've got the policy framework pushing things and the governance structures needing to adapt. But how do you actually make it economically attractive to turn waste into worth? How do we truly incentivize this massive shift? Because let's face it, money talks.
It certainly does, and that's where economic instruments come into play. It all starts with a fundamental philosophical shift. Internalizing costs and really embracing the polluter pays principle.
Okay, internalizing costs. What does that mean in simple terms?
Basically, for decades, the environmental damage caused by waste disposal, things like pollution, greenhouse gases, land degradation, often called externalities, wasn't fully factored into the cost of doing business. The price didn't reflect the true cost.
Right, so a cannery could just dump fish guts in a landfill for cheap, and society picked up the tab for the pollution, the smell, the long-term impact. It seemed like a free or cheap solution for the business.
Precisely. But by internalizing these environmental costs, making the polluter pay for them, economic instruments aim to make environmentally friendly solutions truly competitive. This is the essence of the polluter pays principle.
Makes sense.
The idea is that those responsible for environmental damage should bear the costs to prevent or remedy it. These instruments are a decisive tool to mobilize authorities, producers, everyone, to improve bio-waste management and encourage the necessary behavioral changes.
So it's not just about rules, it's about making the sustainable option the economically rational option too.
Exactly. The core insight here is that Europe isn't just taxing bad behavior, it's building a self-reinforcing financial ecosystem where the very act of disposal funds its own elimination, making sustainability economically irresistible.
That's a powerful idea. So what do these economic instruments actually look like on the ground? Give us some examples of how Europe is putting this principle into practice.
Okay, one of the most direct and effective tools is landfill and incineration taxes. These are just direct taxes that significantly increase the cost of disposal activities compared to more sustainable options like composting or anaerobic digestion. They're highly effective in diverting waste away from landfill and incineration.
And do we have good examples of where these have really worked?
Absolutely. Catalonia, Spain is a prime illustration. Their landfill tax started relatively low, around 10 euros per ton of municipal waste back in 2003, but it's dramatically increased over the years.
How much are we talking now?
By 2023-2024, it reached over 65 euros per ton for landfilling and over 30 euros per ton for incineration. And what's more, specific legislation in Catalonia imposed an additional landfill tax, effectively doubling the amount, for local authorities that hadn't yet implemented separate municipal biowaste collection.
Doubling it. Wow.
Yes. And the Catalan government is even considering pushing the landfill cost towards 130, 150 euros per ton. That makes disposal exceptionally expensive.
So they're really cranking up the pressure.
They are. And this clear, pre-established escalation helps taxpayers, municipalities plan long-term investments and strongly encourages improved separate collection. It essentially says, we will make it so painful for you to landfill that you will have to find a better way.
That's a serious financial disincentive. Are there any potential downsides? Like, does it just push waste somewhere else, illegally perhaps?
That's a fair question, and it's why these policies are often coupled with other mechanisms. Yes, One unintended consequence could be illegal dumping if the costs become too high without sufficient, accessible, and affordable alternatives. However, the primary goal is to drive investment in those alternatives.
Okay, so it needs careful implementation.
Exactly. And a compelling example of a more nuanced approach is Sardinia, Italy. They conceived a management plan with an economic driver that rapidly enhanced the growth of separately collected biowaste and guaranteed its quality.
How did they do that?
Through a premium penalty mechanism, basically a carrot and stick. Separate municipal solid waste collection jumped from a mere 5% in 2004 to approximately 75% in 2021.
That's a massive leap.
It is. Municipalities could receive significant eco-tax reductions, for instance, a 75% reduction if they achieved over 90% separate collection and used pay-as-you-throw systems. Or they could face penalties, like a 5% penalty on top of an increased eco-tax if they didn't meet a 65% collection rate.
That's really smart. It's not just about penalizing bad behavior, but actively rewarding good behavior and focusing on the quality of collection, too.
Precisely. It's about optimizing the collection, not just maximizing the quantity.
So where does all the money collected from these landfill and incineration taxes go? Does it just vanish into government coffers?
Ideally, no.
Yeah.
And that brings us to a related instrument, landfill incineration tax refund or premium systems. These schemes are designed to funnel the revenue generated from those disposal levies back to local entities.
Okay.
The explicit goal is to promote more efficient and advanced waste policies and management models, directly reinvesting in the circular economy. So the money they collect from disposal taxes doesn't just disappear, it's reinvested directly into solving the problem.
That sounds like a powerful self-funding loop. Makes perfect sense.
It is. Catalonia, once again, provides a great case study with its refund system. Catalan laws establish a refund system that directly supports municipalities with separate biowaste collection and efforts to reduce impurities.
Impurities being bits of plastic in the food waste, that kind of thing.
Exactly, things that contaminate the organic stream. So they calculate two main separated refund concepts for biowaste. One is for collection, based on rate per net ton, that means discounting the weight of impurities plus a municipality size correction factor and a quality factor. The other refund is for the treatment itself, again calculated per net ton after impurities are discounted.
This sounds like a particularly clever incentive. So the cleaner your waste stream, the more money you get back. Is that the core idea?
Precisely. A key detail is that if impurities in collected biowaste exceed a certain threshold, it was 12.5% in 2023, the quality coefficient for the collection refund becomes 0.
0. So no refund for collection if it's too contaminated.
Right. But on the flip side, an extra payment is granted if impurities are below 3%. This strongly promotes both the quantity and the quality of separate biowaste management. It ensures that what's collected is actually valuable, pure feedstock for composting or digestion.
That's brilliant. It rewards precision and separation, which is exactly what you need if you're trying to turn this stuff into a high-quality resource. What else are they doing on the economic side to shift the market?
Okay, next, let's look at chemical fertilizer taxes and subsidies. The aim here is twofold. Reduce our reliance on mineral fertilizers, which have issues with limited raw material sources and high energy production costs, and simultaneously boost the market for bio-based alternatives made from waste.
Like compost from food scraps.
Exactly, or digestate from anaerobic digestion. The EU's farm-to-fork strategy, for example, aims for a significant reduction, 30% in non-renewable resources used for fertilizer production by 2030.
So by making chemical fertilizers more expensive through taxes, you make the bio-alternatives more competitive and attractive for farmers. Is that how it works?
That's the idea. Taxes on chemical fertilizers improve the competitiveness of organic and waste-based alternatives by increasing the cost of those chemical inputs. This has a direct positive influence on the demand for and supply of organic soil improvers. It benefits the organic treatment facilities and encourages more bio-waste collection to use as feedstock.
Is this widely used, taxing fertilizer?
Actually, many EU countries have abolished mineral fertilizer taxes over the years. Denmark is a notable exception. They apply a tax on nitrogen content in fertilizers, mainly for recreational use, bringing in about 3 million euros annually. Sweden had one for 25 years, but got rid of it in 2009.
So the stick of taxation isn't universally applied there. What about the carrot of subsidies for the bio-alternatives?
Yes, the carrot side can definitely bolster the marketability of sustainable fertilizers. For example, we've seen rural development plans in 10 Italian regions that have subsidized the use of compost or funded the purchase of special equipment needed to spread compost on agricultural lands. So direct support is happening.
Okay, now let's talk about something that hits closer to home for most of us listening. The direct charges we pay for our own waste collection. How are economic tools changing that?
Right, this is where biowaste management charges, specifically things like variable charges, pay-as-you-throw, PAYT, and save-as-you-throw, SAYT schemes, become really powerful economic instruments.
How do they differ from just paying a flat rate based on your house size?
They move away completely from those flat rate charges, which offer basically zero incentive to reduce waste. Instead, these systems link the costs directly to an individual household's waste generation and, crucially, their separation efforts. This creates very direct incentives for behavioral change. The core idea is simple. You pay less the more you separate and recycle, especially bio-waste.
So if I sort properly, I pay less. If I chuck everything in the general waste bin, I pay more. It's a direct financial consequence for my actions.
Precisely. Under BAET, your waste charges increase if you generate more residual waste or separate poorly. Under SAYT, which stands for Save As You Throw, or sometimes Reward As You Throw, you pay less the more waste you separate at source for recycling, especially bio-waste.
How can they use both?
Yes, these models can even be applied simultaneously, reinforcing both the positive incentive to recycle and the negative incentive to reduce residual waste.
Is this common in Europe now?
It's getting there. The majority of EU member states already had some form of PAYT system in place for at least part of their population back in 2022. That was 20 out of 27 countries. Many use a mix of advanced systems with direct economic incentives, like paying by weight or using prepaid sacks, and more basic volume-based systems.
Let's hear about some real-world examples of how this is actually working, hitting home with individuals and changing behavior.
Okay, take Manlleu in Catalonia, Spain. Again, it's a municipality of over 21,000 inhabitants. They use a system with a fixed annual charge plus a variable part based on the number of times bins for different waste streams are put out for collection.
Based on collections, not weight.
In this case, yes. They employ a sideway approach for food waste. For example, if you put your food waste bin out more than 20 times a year, your variable charge for that stream is €0. But if you put it out less than 6 times, you pay an extra €42.
So they reward frequent, correct separation.
Exactly. And conversely, they have a pay-per approach for residual waste. Putting it out between 4 and 20 times costs nothing extra. But less than 4 collections a year is considered potential fly tipping, and that costs you an extra €66. Green waste also have a variable charge. This multi-tiered system clearly incentivizes regular and correct separation.
That's clever. Any others?
Another excellent example from Catalonia is Villablarix. They boast a remarkable 91% separate collection rate.
91%? How?
They use SAYT for food waste and light packaging. The annual charge starts low, say €75 if you make over 77 food waste collections, but it increases significantly if fewer collections are made. It really strongly incentivizes participation.
It sounds like they're really tailoring the system, not just a blunt instrument.
They are. And Argentona, also in Catalonia, uses a prepaid bag model for residual waste. You buy special bags like €0.65 for a small 17L bag, €2.50 for a bigger 65L one. For organic waste, residents choose from various bin sizes with corresponding annual fees, maybe €43 for a small 25L bin, up to €203 for a large 240L bin. So you're directly linking payment to the volume of organic waste you generate.
And Italy, you mentioned Sardinia earlier.
Yes, and Parma, Italy, offers interesting positive incentives within its PAYT system. Households get a 12% reduction in their general waste charge if they practice home composting.
A direct reward for composting at home.
Exactly. And they also aren't charged for additional collections related to diapers, which shows a really nuanced understanding of user needs and ensures fairness. This level of detail and policy design makes a real difference in public buy-in and acceptance.
That's important, acknowledging real-life situations. What about Germany?
Germany has regions like Ahrweiler and Wasserburg am Inn demonstrating PAYT systems for residual waste based on the number of collections, the volume of the bin, and the weight. Charges typically include a basic fee, an emptying fee per collection, and sometimes a weight fee. In Ahrweiler, users pay for a minimum of 6 collections annually, with optional extra collections possible in the variable part. Wasserburg am Inn applies a minimum weight of 5 kilograms per collection, even if there's no minimum number of collections set.
Lots of variations on the theme, but the principle is the same. Make people aware of the cost of their waste.
Precisely.
Now, what about these fee rebate systems? They sound a bit like a circular economy in themselves.
They kind of are. Fee rebate schemes apply fees to less environmentally friendly activities while giving rebates or refunds to more eco-friendly ones. Critically, these systems are designed to be budget neutral for the administration. The fees collected balance out the rebates paid.
So it doesn't cost the government anything extra.
Right. They're well suited for intercommunal waste management bodies to incentivize their member municipalities based on performance, maybe rewarding them based on the per capita amount of biowaste entering composting facilities or the percentage of separate biowaste collection achieved. It fosters a bit of healthy competition and encourages everyone to improve.
This sounds like it could be applied to a lot of different areas, not just waste. Okay, and what about the cost of treating the waste itself once it's collected? How do they incentivize quality there?
That's a great question. And it's addressed through treatment facility variable gate fees. When waste producers, like municipalities or businesses, deliver waste to a treatment facility, a composter or digester, they pay a gate fee.
A tipping fee, basically.
Yes. The fascinating part here is that these fees often vary significantly based on the quality of the biowaste input, specifically the percentage of impurities like that plastic contamination we mentioned.
So cleaner waste costs less to treat.
Exactly. Higher impurities pay higher gate fees because the facility has extra costs for cleaning it up or dealing with lower quality output. This strongly incentivizes cleaner inputs right from the source. It puts the financial responsibility squarely on those creating the waste to ensure it's properly separated and clean.
That's brilliant. How are these fees structured?
Well, the design aspects are crucial. Gate fees for residual waste should always be more expensive than for properly separated biowaste, reinforcing the waste hierarchy. And impurity thresholds are typically set. For instance, you might have lower costs for waste with under 3 to 5% impurities, medium costs for 5–10%, and high costs, or even outright rejection of the load for anything above 10–15%.
Rejection, so they can just turn trucks away if the load is too dirty.
Yes. This ensures that treatment facilities receive high-quality feedstock, which makes the whole downstream process more efficient, and the final outputs, like compost, more valuable.
This all sounds like a complex but incredibly effective system of carrots and sticks, all designed to drive behavior change at every level. Are there any emerging economic instruments on the horizon that could play an even bigger role in the future?
There are a couple of interesting developments. Tradable permit systems, like cap and trade, are widely used in general environmental policy. Think of the EU emissions trading system for carbon. They're less common specifically for waste, though.
But they have been tried.
Yes, the Landfill Allowance Trading Scheme, LATS, in the UK ran from 2004 to 2012. It was actually quite successful, driving a 7% annual reduction in biodegradable municipal waste sent to landfill. It was eventually discontinued mainly because the UK's rising landfill tax achieved similar goals more simply.
Okay. And the EU ETS for carbon, how might that impact waste?
Well, the EU emissions trading system, EU ETS, already sets limits on greenhouse gas emissions, allowing companies to trade allowances. Emissions from waste incineration are technically included, but most municipal solid waste incinerators are currently exempted.
But that might change.
There's a proposal on the table to include them starting from 2028, though there'll be a review in 2026. If incinerators are included in the ETS, it would make incineration significantly more costly due to the price put on their CO2 emissions.
Which would further incentivize recycling and biowaste treatment.
Exactly. It would reinforce the incentives for higher hierarchy waste options like recycling and composting digestion, as those activities generally have much lower or even negative greenhouse gas footprints compared to incineration. It's a potentially powerful future incentive.
That's definitely one to watch. Okay, so taxes, fees, permits. What about just straightforward financial support to kickstart these initiatives, grants and subsidies?
Absolutely essential. That's where subsidies for biowaste management come in. These include direct financial assistance like grants, soft loans, or tax breaks. What's significant now is the direction of EU funding. EU funds, like a big next-generation EU recovery package, are increasingly excluding support for residual waste management, like landfill expansion or building new incinerators. Instead, the money is being directed towards economic support for separate collection, recycling infrastructure, and prevention or reuse initiatives.
So the EU is literally putting its money where its mouth is, investing in the solutions, not just managing the problems.
Precisely. It aligns with the do not significantly harm principle of the EU taxonomy. which guides sustainable finance. It's about steering financial flows toward genuinely sustainable activities.
Can you give an example?
Sure. In Catalonia, Spain, subsidies finance a broad range of activities, everything from initial diagnosis and action plans to practical elements for selective collection like smart bins, compostable bags, user identification technology.
Judith is involved too.
Yes. Also funding for home composting kits, complementary equipment like collection trucks, and even advisory services, communication campaigns, and training actions. Spain's National Recovery and Resilience Plan, backed by those next-generation EU funds, specifically targets implementing new separate collections for biowaste and constructing or improving facilities to treat it properly.
And does this support extend to the energy side, the biogas you mentioned?
It does. Subsidies for biogas biomethane support schemes exist across Europe. These can take various forms: feed-in tariffs, feed-in premiums, quota systems requiring energy suppliers to use a certain amount of biomethane, fiscal incentives like tax breaks, and direct investment support for building digesters.
What's the goal there?
They help make biogas and biomethane more affordable and competitive compared to fossil fuels or other energy forms. This indirectly incentivizes the collection and treatment of bio-waste feedstocks because it creates a valuable market for the energy output. The specifics, like the value and duration of this support, vary quite a bit by country and region, reflecting different national energy policies.
Okay, we've talked a lot about municipalities, individuals, treatment facilities. What about the producers themselves, the companies making the products that eventually become waste? Is there an expectation for them to take responsibility?
That's the domain of extended producer responsibility, or EPR, schemes. These schemes make producers financially and/or physically responsible for the end-of-life management of their products. Think packaging, electronics, batteries.
Right, we see that for packaging already in many places.
Yes. However, there's a significant gap here when it comes to food. Food products themselves, and the resulting food waste, are one of the main waste flows not currently covered by a widespread EPR scheme. This leads to a lack of dedicated economic and management support, specifically for dealing with leftovers and food biowaste from the producer side.
That seems like a major oversight given how much food waste we generate. Are there any examples trying to bridge that gap, maybe focusing on food packaging that ends up in biowaste?
It is a gap, but there are innovative examples addressing parts of this challenge. BioRepack in Italy is a really unique Italian EPR scheme. It collects a fee from producers who put compostable plastic packaging onto the market.
Compostable plastic. Okay, so what happens with that fee?
That fee is then used specifically to support the organic recycling sector. It funds programs to help remove contamination, like non-compostable plastics, from the organic waste streams collected from households and businesses. It also pays for public education campaigns about proper sorting.
That's incredibly clever.
It is. In 2022, BioRepack managed about 52,000 tons of compostable plastic packaging in Italy, covering roughly 65% of the population. It provides crucial financial support for the collection, transport, and industrial composting or digestion of these specific materials. It's like saying, if your packaging is designed to be composted, you help fund the system that ensures it actually is composted properly and doesn't mess up the organic waste stream. It closes that loop perfectly for that specific material type.
A fantastic example of targeted EPR. Okay, so underpinning all these economic incentives, you obviously need the physical capacity to actually do the collection and treatment, right?
Absolutely. Adequate investment and infrastructure are key. You need planned or existing treatment capacity composting plants, anaerobic digesters, to match the amount of biowaste being generated and captured in each area. And this needs to adhere to the proximity principle.
Meaning treat waste close to where it's made.
Ideally, yes. To minimize transport costs and emissions, there's a clear need to plan treatment facilities well in advance, aligning the infrastructure build-out with the biowaste recycling objectives set by policy.
And it doesn't have to break the bank for individual small towns, right? Can they team up?
Definitely. Shared services or shared treatment facilities following economy of scale models can be highly advantageous. Municipalities can share the investment costs and operational resources under cooperative systems.
And is it actually proving to be economically viable? Does turning biowaste into compost or biogas actually pay for itself or even make money?
The overall economic viability is looking promising. Data from projects like the Life BioBest project, which studied several European cases, indicate that biowaste collection and treatment can indeed be economically favorable.
How so?
Well, for example, for 4 out of 8 cases they studied in detail, the cost of collecting separated biowaste was actually cheaper than collecting the same amount as mixed residual waste.
Cheaper to collect separately. Interesting.
Yes. And similarly, for 7 out of 8 cases, the cost of treating the separated biowaste, composting or AD, was lower than the cost of treating the equivalent amount of residual waste, usually landfill or incineration, including the taxes.
That's great news. It suggests that this isn't just an environmental good, but potentially an economic one, too, once the systems are set up right.
Precisely. Now, the market value of the outputs, the price farmers or others will pay for the compost or digestate, is crucial for the overall economic viability of the treatment facilities.
Does that vary a lot?
It does. Some cases they studied, like the county of Burgodo in Spain or the island of Kirk in Croatia, achieved high prices for their compost, which contributed positively to the economic balance of the biological treatment processes. But other areas still face low prices for their outputs. This highlights the ongoing need for market development, creating robust demand and potentially standards for these valuable bio-based soil improvers.
All right, so we've covered the ambitious policies pushing this change and the clever economic levers that are making it happen financially. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the really exciting part perhaps. The actual innovation, the technology that's turning those fish guts and food scraps into valuable products. We're truly moving from problem to potential, from bio-waste to biomaterials and bioenergy.
This is really where the science and engineering meet the circular economy vision. That core idea from your opening industrial leftovers like fish guts, heads, fins, bones, that protein-rich water. That represents just one vivid example of the vast potential locked within all these heterogeneous industrial and municipal biowaste streams.
Heterogeneous meaning just mixed up, lumpy, inconsistent stuff.
Exactly. It's not a nice, clean, uniform feedstock like oil or grain. It's variable. But researchers and engineers are relentlessly finding ways to process these diverse organic flows into truly valuable resources. It's about efficiently converting these streams into a whole portfolio of high-value, bio-based chemicals, materials, and energy products, and doing it at an industrial scale.
Okay, so what are the primary technologies they're using right now to treat this bio-waste at scale? The workhorses of the system.
Currently, there are 2 mainstream treatment technologies for biowaste. The first, and by far the most dominant, is composting.
Good old composting.
Yep, it processes over 90% of the separately collected food and garden waste in the EU right now. Composting is essentially the controlled biological degradation of plant and animal residues into a stable, sanitized product, the compost.
Which is great for soil.
Exactly. It's a valuable soil improver full of stable organic carbon and diverse beneficial microorganisms. It's generally considered a rather straightforward process that requires a modest amount of capital investment up front. It's basically mimicking nature's decomposition process, but making it faster, controlled, and much more efficient.
Okay, so if your main goal is soil improvement and diverting waste from landfill, composting is your go-to. Simple, effective. What's the other primary method?
The second main method is anaerobic digestion, or AD. This is a biochemical process where bacteria break down organic materials, but crucially in the absence of oxygen.
Anaerobic, no air.
Right. And the main product here is biogas.
Which is basically methane, right? Natural gas.
Primarily methane and carbon dioxide, yes.
Yeah.
It's a renewable gas. The leftover material after the digestion process, which is called digestate, can then be stabilized further, often by composting it.
So you can combine them, AD then composting.
You can. Now, obviously, a 2-step process, AD followed by composting, is naturally going to be more costly than just composting alone. But AD provides that significant added value, renewable gas generation. Energy. And critically, the anaerobic digestion of biowaste can count towards achieving both the EU's renewable energy targets and those ambitious recycling targets we talked about earlier. That's provided the digestate is properly treated and then recycled as compost or fertilizer back to land. This dual benefit makes AD particularly attractive in many situations.
That's a powerful combination. You're not just dealing with the waste, you're creating energy and a valuable soil additive. This sounds like it's fueling a significant shift towards sustainable energy across Europe.
It absolutely is. We're witnessing what some are calling the unstoppable rise of biogas and biomethane across Europe. Combined biogas, raw gas, and biomethane, upgraded pipeline quality gas production, hit 191 terawatt hours back in 2020.
191 TWH.
Yes. And what's truly remarkable is that this figure is expected to double in the next 9 years alone.
Double by around 2030.
Roughly, yes. And some estimates go much further, projecting up to 1,700 terawatt hours by 2050.
1,700 TWH by 2050. That's a huge number. To help us grasp that, what does that translate to in terms of Europe's overall energy mix?
It means that by 2050, if those projections hold, Somewhere between 30% and 40% of Europe's total gas consumption could potentially be made up of sustainable biomethane produced from sources like biowaste.
Wow, nearly half are gas from waste and biomass. That's a game changer.
It represents a rapid and, importantly, a deliberate shift in feedstock for biogas and biomethane production. We're moving away from using energy crops grown specifically for digestion towards more sustainable options like agricultural residues, manures, straw, municipal biowaste, and sewage sludge. Those improved waste management and collection programs we discussed, they are directly increasing the supply of food waste for this purpose, feeding the engine of this part of the bioeconomy.
So my food scraps could literally be helping to fuel my bus or heat my neighbor's home. That's an incredible closed loop.
Precisely. And biomethane offers huge potential specifically as a transport fuel. It can be used in the form of bio-CNG, which is compressed natural gas, or bio-LNG, liquefied natural gas.
For trucks and buses mainly.
Yes, particularly heavy-duty transport. There was a projection that by this year, 2024, Europe could have around 10.6 terawatt-hours per year of sustainable bio-LNG production capacity. That amount alone could fuel potentially 25,000 LNG trucks annually across Europe.
And do we need whole new refueling stations for this?
That's a big advantage, no. It can utilize the already extensive network of existing CNG and LNG filling stations across Europe without needing significant new infrastructure investments. It's essentially a plug-and-play solution for greening heavy transport that's ready to scale up now.
That's amazing. And it's not just good for the environment and potentially energy independence, it's also creating jobs, I assume.
Yes, absolutely. This sector is already a significant creator of green jobs. Estimates suggest it's currently responsible for over 210,000 jobs across Europe.
Yeah.
And projections estimate the sector could create approximately 420,000 jobs by 2030 and potentially over 1 million jobs by 2050.
1 million jobs just from biogas and biomethane. How?
Well, think about it. Replacing imported fossil fuels like petrol or diesel with locally produced biogas and biomethane means replacing those imports with value generated from local waste and residues. It stimulates local economies, creates jobs in collection, plant operation, maintenance, technology supply, and builds energy resilience.
That's a huge economic benefit alongside the environmental one. Can you give us a concrete example of this biogas from biowaste in action? Maybe something that shows how accessible this can be for ordinary citizens.
Sure, look at Linköping in Sweden. Back in 2012, they introduced the green bag collection system for food waste.
The green bag. How does that work?
It's really simple. Residents sort their food waste into special green plastic bags. They then place these green bags in the same bins or containers as their other regular household waste.
So no extra bin needed.
No extra bin. Then, at the central waste treatment plant, an automatic optical sorting machine recognizes the color of the green bags and separates them out from the rest of the trash.
Clever tech.
Very. The collected food waste in the green bags is then sent off for anaerobic digestion, turning it into biogas and nutrient-rich biofertilizer. This really simple concept, requiring no major changes to the existing collection system, enabled Linköping to reach the national food waste collection target. By 2019, about 80% of households were using the green bags, and they were separately collecting around 55% of all their food waste.
That's so smart. It doesn't require people to drastically change their routine or find space for another bin. It just needs a different colored bag and the tech at the other end. Another example, maybe something different.
Okay, how about Rubiera in Italy? They successfully implemented a system specifically for collecting used vegetable oils from households.
Cooking oil, that's usually tricky to dispose of.
It is. Citizens simply place bottles of their used cooking oil into conveniently located large yellow bins. These are 800-liter capacity bins placed around the town. The bins are collected and replaced when they get about 3/4 full.
And who pays for this?
Here's the clever part. The revenues generated from selling the collected used oils, which can be turned into biodiesel, actually cover the costs of installing and emptying the bins. It's self-funding.
Fantastic. Did it work? Did people use it?
Dramatically. The initiative saw collection increase from just 366 kilograms in 2018 to over 11,460 kilograms. That's 11.5 tons in 2019.
Wow, that's a huge jump. From a few hundred kilos to over 11 tons in just 1 year. It really highlights how simple, well-designed, convenient collection systems can unlock significant new resource streams we weren't capturing before.
It certainly does, but the innovation doesn't stop at energy or basic recycling. As you said, we're also seeing incredible advancements in turning biowaste into higher-value bio-based chemicals and materials.
Right, so we're talking about more than just fertilizer and fuel. Like, Actual plastics and other industrial inputs derived from waste. This feels like a whole different level of valorization.
Exactly. This is where biotechnology and chemical engineering really come into play. A prime example here is Brascom's innovation. Brascom is a major global bioplastics manufacturer.
What do they make?
They produce a range called I'm Green TM. This includes bio-based polyethylene, that's one of the most common plastics, as well as bio-based EVA and waxes. They make these from bioethanol, which itself is derived from responsibly sourced sugarcane, for instance.
So plastic from plants, essentially.
Yes, and these products are kept 100% segregated through the production process, and they have a measurable bio-content ranging from 80% to 100%. They also offer what they call bioattributed solutions.
Bioattributed, what's that?
That uses something called a mass balance approach. It's a way to mix sustainable feedstocks, like bio-based ones, with traditional fossil feedstocks in existing production plants. Then, they use a verified accounting method to attribute the sustainable content to specific batches of the final product. It allows faster scaling using existing infrastructure.
Okay, like a certified tracking system.
Exactly. Brascom is expanding significantly, too. They have a joint venture in Thailand to add 200,000 tons per year of bio-based polyethylene capacity. And they've invested in creating Sustainia bioglycols to produce bio-based MEG, monoethylene glycol, and MPG, monopropylene glycol.
What are those used for?
They're important chemical building blocks used in making things like PT plastic for bottles and polyester fibers, as well as antifreeze and other industrial products. Brascom's goal is ambitious. Reach 1 million tons of production capacity for bio-based or bioattributed products by 2030.
That's huge. It truly shows the ambition to replace fossil-based materials with renewable ones derived from biomass, potentially including waste biomass streams in the future. But if these bio-based products are so great and the technology exists, why do they only have about 1% of the plastics market share currently? That raises an important question about the market hurdles, doesn't it?
That's precisely the market challenge. Despite the technology being scalable and often competitive with other alternatives on performance, bio-based plastics face headwinds. They really require supportive legislation and, crucially, reliable systems to report and monitor the flows of biogenic carbon throughout the entire value chain. This is needed to allow them to genuinely compete with established fossil-based plastics and reach their full sustainable potential.
So it comes back to trust and transparency again.
It does. There are hurdles to overcome in terms of clear policy signals, consistent standards, and robust verification to enable these products to truly flourish in the mainstream market.
That makes perfect sense. If you can't easily prove it's green, or if it's too complicated or expensive to do so, it's hard to convince the market and the end consumer. Which brings us neatly to the final piece of the puzzle. How are they building trust in this whole green transition, especially with all these new bio-based products emerging and the need to harmonize diverse regulations across Europe?
Building trust, especially through harmonizing certification standards, is absolutely critical. You hit the nail on the head. A major hurdle for widespread adoption of bio-based products is consumer skepticism and confusion. This is often caused by, well, unclear or unproven positive environmental impact notifications, basically. Greenwashing.
Right, those vague labels.
Exactly. The generic labels like environmentally friendly or eco, without any real supporting evidence or independent verification, have unfortunately undermined public trust. It makes it hard for the average consumer to tell what's genuinely sustainable from what's just clever marketing.
I mean, what's being done about that?
The EU is responding directly. There's a new EU directive specifically aimed at empowering consumers for the green transition. It plans to prohibit generic environmental labeling unless it's backed up by recognized, verifiable evidence. It demands accuracy and reliability in product labeling.
So cracking down on vague claims.
Yes. And this is where specific initiatives like the BioResearch project step in. BioResearch stands for Biological Resources Certification Schemes. It's a key European project working to redefine and harmonize certification standards across the continent.
What's its main goal?
Its core goal is to establish robust, agreed-upon criteria covering sustainability, circularity, and traceability for biological products, especially those derived from waste and other renewable non-food sources. The aim is to ensure these products are not only environmentally sound, but also credibly certified in a way that's understood and trusted across borders. This is vital for facilitating a seamless cross-border bio-based circular economy.
So they're trying to create a clear, trustworthy stamp of approval for these bio-based products, something that stands up to scrutiny no matter which EU country you're in. Why is that harmonization so important for the broader circular economy?
It's vital because certification provides consumers and businesses buying these materials with credible references about sustainability, origin, and traceability. It helps everyone identify genuinely sustainable products, which influences purchasing decisions, fosters market growth for those sustainable goods, and ultimately supports the whole transition to a circular bioeconomy.
But it must be complicated given the source materials.
It is. The challenge, as we've discussed, is the complexity and variability of bio-based value chains, especially when they contain residual feedstock and waste. Existing certification schemes are sometimes questioned because they weren't necessarily designed for these complex waste-derived feedstocks. BioRacer is specifically designed to assess and enhance current certification schemes by introducing new criteria aligned with EU sustainability goals and regulations, like the crucial EU taxonomy for sustainable activities. It's about creating a common, reliable language for sustainability in this specific context.
Making sure the complex journey from, say, fish waste to a bioplastic is transparent and verifiable no matter where you are in the EU. What role do consumer groups play in policing this and building trust?
Consumer associations, like the Union of Working Consumers of Greece, EEC, who are involved in BioRacer, play a crucial role. They work to minimize greenwashing and promote the circular bioeconomy in several ways.
Such as?
By educating consumers about the benefits and realities of bio-based products. By endorsing and explaining credible certification schemes to help consumers identify and trust sustainable products. By advocating for complementary public policies that support sustainable practices and transparency. By facilitating collaboration between consumers, industry, and policymakers to ensure consumer perspectives are actually included in policy design. And, importantly, by actively monitoring corporate practices and reporting discrepancies between company claims and their actual environmental impact, holding companies accountable. They act as watchdogs for the public.
And what about the industry leaders themselves, like Braskem, the bioplastics company you mentioned earlier? Are they on board with this push for more transparency and harmonized certification? It means more scrutiny for them.
Generally, yes, the leading companies are. Industry leaders are vital for driving transparency in the supply chain. Braskem, for example, already uses established certifications like ISCC+, International Sustainability and Carbon Certification, and Bonsucro, for sustainable sugarcane, for its bio-based products. This demonstrates a clear commitment to responsible sourcing and supply chain integrity.
So they see value in it.
They do. They emphasize that robust certification standards are important for leveling the playing field, ensuring everyone meets a certain standard, and for fostering continuous improvement within the industry. Their stated commitment is to contribute positively to projects like BioRacer and to adopt effective new standards as soon as they are developed and agreed upon. They recognize that their own long-term market growth is intrinsically tied to building and maintaining consumer trust.
It sounds like a true collaborative effort then, ideally from regulators setting rules to certifiers developing standards, consumer groups watching, and industry players implementing and verifying, all working to build this robust framework of trust.
That's the goal. And the EU taxonomy provides significant underpinning support here, too.
Remind us what that is again.
The EU taxonomy is essentially a classification system. It defines detailed technical criteria for economic activities to determine if they can be considered environmentally sustainable. It's designed primarily to guide investment towards green projects.
And how does it relate to biowaste?
Crucially, it explicitly includes biowaste management activities, both the separate collection and the treatment, like composting and AD, within its framework. It classifies anaerobic digestion of biowaste, for example, as making a substantial contribution to climate change mitigation. This provides a clear, official framework for defining sustainable investment in this sector. It helps protect against greenwashing by guiding financial flows towards genuinely sustainable activities using a science-based standard. It's the regulatory backbone supporting much of this transition.
So the overall goal is clear. Make it easy for consumers to trust what they're buying, make it straightforward for industry to comply with clear standards, and make it financially attractive for everyone to participate in this circular system.
Exactly. However, it's important to add a note of realism. Both consumer advocates and industry leaders agree that despite all these advancements in policy, technology, and certification, there's still a long way to go in terms of broad public understanding of the circular bioeconomy.
People still don't really get it.
Not fully or not widely enough. Public education is still urgently needed to empower citizens to make informed, responsible consumption choices, to understand why separating waste matters, what happens to it, And industry also has a role to play in contributing positively to this public understanding, not just marketing their products. The technology, the policy, the economic incentives are increasingly falling into place, but that societal shift in awareness and everyday behavior still needs continuous cultivation.
We've truly gone on a deep dive today, haven't we? Exploring how Europe is systematically dismantling this traditional concept of waste and instead seeing literal mountains of organic material, from those industrial fish processing leftovers we started with, right down to household food scraps, as an incredibly valuable resource.
Absolutely. And this sweeping transformation isn't accidental, as we've seen. It's driven by a really powerful interplay of clear policy mandates pushing for separate collection and advanced treatment. Then you have the clever economic incentives making recycling and valorization more attractive than disposal. Add to that the cutting-edge biotechnologies converting these leftovers into high-value products like biogas, biomethane, advanced bioplastics, and biochemicals. And finally, that concerted effort to build consumer and industry trust through rigorous, harmonized certification standards.
It's a complex, multi-layered system, definitely.
It is, but the goal is ultimately simple and profound: to unlock the hidden value in what we once just threw away, and to keep that value circulating within our economy, doing it at an industrial scale, and making it commercially viable and competitive.
When you think about it, how much of the world's perceived waste could actually be its future raw material? This journey towards a truly circular bioeconomy in Europe seems well underway. It's proving that sometimes the greatest treasures really are found in the places we least expect them, transforming what was once seen only as a costly problem into a genuine opportunity for an entirely new kind of sustainable prosperity.